Our universe is a constant exchange of energy, an infinite cycle of creation and destruction.
What's going on, everyone? It's Alex. Welcome back to the channel. And yeah, you can refer to me as Alex from now on. Moon Knight Episode 3 will be out soon, and so far there's a heavy emphasis on godlike beings in the show, with Khonshu's appearance and Easter eggs talking all about ancient Egyptian gods. Multiverse of Madness will be out soon also, so here is my video explaining Marvel Elder Gods and just how exactly the MCU will differentiate someone like Thor to Khonshu and Khonshu to a Celestial. If you're new to the channel or just like Marvel, the MCU, comics, and everything in between, subscribe for all Moon Knight related videos. But other than that, let's get into the video. Let's go. A few months ago when Eternals released, I did a Cosmic Hierarchy of Power video, and while that describes the basis of cosmic gods and how they sit next to each other in power, it didn't necessarily go over the different types of gods, because the term god is used in so many different ways from very different perceptions. So consider this like a part 2 to that video. I asked the question of, is he who remains a god because he controlled the ability to remove free will, or as a human because anything elevated beyond our basic capabilities could be considered a god? Often we ask ourselves, what is the true meaning of a god? But the answer to that is that there isn't one true meaning. To a New Yorker in the MCU, an Eternal or even Thor is considered a god. But as we have learned, he's more of a demigod, which usually these types of gods have a human element to them. Sure, in the eyes of the average person, his might presents him as a god, and of course he's called the god of thunder. But to a Celestial, to eternity, what exactly is Thor? Greek, Norse, and Egyptian mythology all sort of collide with one another in the Marvel Universe. And the term god doesn't really have anything to do with the power level, because some gods are just not that powerful compared to others. But their presence and ability puts them on that god pedestal. In Marvel Comics, and of course in the MCU, power is given based on the writer of the story within a basic set of rules. The one above all is considered to be the god, or capital G god, of the multiverse, responsible for all life, but under him, it's levels to what makes a god a god. You have beings where only one singular form of them exists across the entire multiverse, such as the Living Tribunal or Eternity. And then you have characters like Thor and Loki who are considered gods, but there are many different versions of them throughout the universe. Cosmic level gods literally hold the power of the universe. Just like we saw in Eternals, the Celestials have the energy of the universe at the tips of their fingers. Whereas Khonshu, although he's considered a god, he only has powers in relation to the moon. And sure, these powers are strong and they can gift a person insane abilities like Moon Knight, but compared to a Celestial, Khonshu is worth nothing. Thor and Khonshu, or technically Moon Knight, have fought each other in the comics before, and were able to take away Mjolnir from Thor because it was found out to be made of moon rock. Now of course, in a pound for pound fight in full ability, Thor would probably end up winning most of the time, even though Khonshu looks and feels more like a god than Thor does, but that's the entire point of this video. Khonshu is actually considered an Elder God in Marvel Comics, and in general, the Elder Gods are pretty powerful cosmic beings. Of course, like everything in the Marvel Universe and what we're going over right now, there's even levels to Elder God power, which puts some near the top of the totem pole and others towards the bottom. Khonshu, for example, is relatively low in power compared to someone like Chthon or Gia. And speaking of Chthon, it looks like we're going to be seeing him in Multiverse of Madness. Now, I'm sure most of you know who he is, but he's actually the creator of the Darkhold. So if we're talking about power, he's pretty much way up there. The cool thing is he's also related to Gia. Now you're probably wondering why we haven't seen any of them until now, and that's mainly because a lot of them are trapped between dimensions. Khonshu, for example, cannot transcend to Earth, so that's why he uses avatars like Mark Spector. The same thing goes for Chthon and the Scarlet Witch. He is trying to free himself through her, and so this goes for all the Egyptian gods as well, and it's probably why we haven't seen Amma in Moon Knight yet either. It's because Arthur Harrow is just the avatar for her.
Kill him!
But it seems like the plot is moving towards how he can free her from being trapped.
Break his windpipe!
The term Elder God is really just the name for ancient or pantheon gods, and the word pantheon actually derives from Greek, which is where those characters like Zeus and Hercules and Athena come from. Angelina Jolie's Athena from Eternals derives exactly from that, but of course the A is dropped. I just want to touch a bit more on Chthon before we move on. So there was a TV spot for Multiverse of Madness that dropped this past week, and it included a few new shots, and something that looked very similar to Chthon was in there, but I don't think it's exactly him. In comparison to the poster model, this looks a bit different, and in this shot here, you can see another one right behind Wanda. My guess is these are minions of Chthon, because having two versions of him doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, because there's only one of him throughout the multiverse, the same way that there is only one Khonshu. Now, where this takes place though is likely under Wundagore Mountain. Chthon wrote the Darkhold in this chamber, and it's at the same mountain that we see Wanda end up in the WandaVision post-credit scene. Not to mention also that this statue is the same picture that is held within the Darkhold. If Chthon is trying to get her to free him, it's essentially the same type of plot or intentions as Arthur Harrow in Moon Knight, showing that the Elder Gods and possibly a lot of gods in general are trapped in these limbo dimensions away from Earth looking for a way out. Now, to keep tying this back into Moon Knight though, I'm currently reading the 14-issue Moon Knight run by Lemire, which is said to be a big inspiration for the show in the same way that the Matt Fraction run was the basis for Hawkeye. Now, in this Moon Knight run, Mark Spector actually wakes up in a mental hospital and sees visions of the Dr. Emmett that is pretending to help him as Amit possessing her. And being that Arthur Harrow was a doctor in the comics, even though it hasn't been referenced to my knowledge in the MCU so far, it could be the same kind of adaptation with twists, which lead me to believe that like how we see Khonshu, we will see Amit at some point in the series. So for the most part, this ancient Egyptian Ennead of gods is lesser than some of the other Elder Gods, even if they are descendants of some. Bast or Bastet, for example, the Black Panther god, falls into this same level and category of Egyptian gods. Which, by the way, there was a report that they cast an actress to play a version of Bast in the Thor Love and Thunder movie. And with Gore the God Butcher as the villain, it might not be the biggest coincidence for why Thor comes out both after Doctor Strange 2 and Moon Knight. I mean, even Zeus is rumored to be another god showing up in Thor 4, but I'll do a full video on this in a few days or so. Just a small detail to add though, Gore's abilities mainly come from the Necro Sword, a sword created by Null, so even though he can kill gods, it's not really him alone who is that powerful. Null is another tricky one who is the god of the symbiotes. He's not considered an elder god, but necessarily isn't not one also. He was born in between the void of the 6th and 7th cosmos, and eventually the Celestials found of his existence. However, he did create the Necro Sword in the meantime to kill a Celestial, just another example of how some of the most powerful gods are still susceptible to death. I've been theorizing a situation where we could possibly be seeing some sort of uprise of Elder Gods in the MCU, and maybe that does start with Amit, but it could become a really convoluted story. Chthon actually attempted this once against other Elder Gods, but was banished after he failed, and where the MCU is going right now, I'm not really sure if I could see this happening, but you never know. So just to recap here, expect to see way more gods in the MCU really soon. And because the term god is thrown around a lot, and characters like even Kang can sometimes possess more power than a real god, it does get tricky, but just know that there is a difference and levels to it. So let me know your thoughts about this in the comments below and drop all your theories for Moon Knight. You can follow me on Twitter at AnotherMarvelG for all daily news and updates. If you liked the video, definitely leave a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more content. Other than that, I just want to say thank you. I'm another Marvel guy, and I'll catch y'all on a blip.